Accio Harry Potter craft kit. Perfect. Hi coffee beans, how's it brewing? As you can see, I'm all dolled up in my Hogwarts school uniform because my Harry Potter Hogwarts trunk just got here. Now this is a special collection from Sophie and Toffee that they licensed with Harry Potter. I think Sophie and Toffee still have some Harry Potter boxes left in their store. So if you want to get your own, then make sure you check my links down below because I do have a 10% off anything in the Sophie and Toffee store and a $3 off your first Elves box. I love that it's designed like a student's trunk or suitcase. Oh, okay, so this is all the stuff that we got in this one. Oh my goodness. Ah! I'm so excited. I'm so excited. I'm shaking. I'm a huge Harry Potter fan. If you're not a Harry Potter fan, that's totally fine. Thank you for being here, even though it's a Harry Potter video. Kudos to you. Let me know in the comments what your favorite book is, or maybe what your favorite movie series is, because I would love to know. Okay, so obviously we got a ton of molds, so I'm gonna move those aside just for a moment. We got shaker film, that's for the Hedwig shaker. So it is backwards because it is the film to go on the resin envelope, but it looks just like the writing in the movie, which is really cool. It even has little addresses and little Hogwarts insignias. That is so cool. So we got these bezels too, and there is a Hogwarts letter, a chocolate frog, a Birdie Bots Every Flavor Beans box, and then also another Hogwarts student trunk or suitcase. They do have these little extra round kind of oval bits on there. They're like little charms. I thought that was gonna say Harry Potter, but it doesn't. It just says WBEI, so I assume that's like Warner Brothers Enterprises, maybe? I don't need to take this out of the bag. It's just some jump rings and chains for the bezels, I'm assuming. And we got a whole bunch of mica powder colors. What's weird is this says brown, but it looks like red, like a crimson. So I'm assuming it's gonna mix up brown. If they're telling me it's brown, then it's gonna be brown. I'm not gonna take my chances. We got blue, pearl, copper, and rich gold. This is a gorgeous color, this copper. Okay, time for our molds, which I'm super excited about. It's my favorite part every time. I know that's Hedwig. I'm setting Hedwig aside. I hope you guys can see these details. So this is the Hogwarts Express Ticket. There is a little chocolate frog, a chocolate frog box. There's the train, and then we also have platform 9 3/4 sign. The thing that is the most impressive is this mold has the writing for the train ticket on that inside, but it is so delicate that it's just barely raised. It's like barely etched into the silicone. So that's gonna pick up some really delicate details. Now, this one is the Hogwarts acceptance letter. I think this is gonna take some figuring out on my part, but I'm really excited to do it. And it looks like it came with 2 little H's like for wax seals. That's really clever. Oh, you know what? I bet you the jump rings are to fit through here so that it can open, because I do know it can fold open. Now this is the last mold, and I think it's the one that I'm the most excited for, is a little Hedwig shaker. And it is one of those styles where you fill it in just a little bit and then press the plunger in. So I'm gonna try to not make a gigantic mess. I love the details on Hedwig. She looks kind of like chibi kawaii style. It's really, really cute. So my one thing that I'm a little worried about is this included pamphlet seems a little rushed. It doesn't seem like the typical Elves box, Sophie and Toffee kind of pamphlet. Now this is not Elves box, but it is Sophie and Toffee. So this kind of just looks very thrown together, and it does not give you any measurements or directions or anything at all. So it really is very much like a guessing game on how to do like the letter, the envelope, how to do Hedwig. So I realize now that a lot of this is kind of left up in the air for us to figure out how to do. So I'm going to use my last 2 years of resin experience, which isn't a lot. It sounds like a lot, but it's not, to try and figure out how these go together. So I hope this video helps you. So much came in this box that I decided I'm just gonna do one project for today, and I will turn this into a really mini series of resin Harry Potter crafts so that I can focus one video for each project. Because the Hogwarts ticket is a little in-depth, the Hogwarts acceptance letter envelopes are a little in-depth, and then of course we have our bezel charms, so there's a lot to kind of focus on. So today, I am going to be making the Hogwarts Express Ticket shaker. I didn't realize it was a shaker, and so now I'm like extra excited to make it. Now, this mold has really, really fine details etched into the inside, and it's kind of like a intricate border around the edge, and then the words for the ticket in the center. And normally silicone molds have raised letters so that when you take the resin out, the letters are actually etched into the resin, and then you can dry brush paint, wipe it off, and then it colors in the letters. In this case, the silicone mold has the etched letters so that when I take the resin out, it's going to be raised letters on the resin, and that is going to be more difficult to color. So I'm kind of reversing how I do things, and instead of painting the resin once it's cured, I'm going to paint the silicone mold. To get started, I applied regular black acrylic paint to the letters in the center of the silicone mold, and I wiped that off with a baby wipe, and that wiped off too much paint. So then I reapplied some more, wiped it off with a paper towel, and it was passable. It was okay. I'm not like super happy with it, but it is what it is. Then I went around the edge and I did it with the gold paint. And again, it wiped off too much of the paint because the details are just so fine. So the method that I kind of came up with was I took some of my colored UV gel from Sophie and Toffee, and this bottle has a kind of flat edge to it, and I wrapped that in a paper towel and then scraped the paint. That way it wiped off all of the excess, but it didn't get into the grooves and wipe off the paint. So you could do this with a credit card, anything that kind of has that flat edge. So for me, this little UV bottle was perfect. Then I cleaned up the excess paint that was kind of discoloring the mold with a baby wipe. Make sure when you're working with resin, you always wear your gloves and your safety mask. And I will put all of the links to what I use in the description below. Then I mixed up my 1-to-1 epoxy resin, and this is something that was pretty disappointing to me after unboxing it. I didn't even realize that it didn't come with resin. It just came with molds and accessories. It didn't come with resin, so how are you supposed to make the project if this is your first ever resin project? So thankfully I have my own resin to use, but if this is your first resin box, you're gonna have to go out and buy your own resin. That's pretty disappointing, especially for the cost of the box. I wanted my Hogwarts ticket to be a really nice kind of parchment color, so I added in some yellow, just the tiniest bit of brown, and a bunch of white to make it slightly more opaque. And I kept adding some colors and mixing it until I got the parchment color that I was looking for. I knew I wanted to have glitter in the shaker, but for me, glitter tends to stick to the shaker film, so instead I mixed it into my resin. Now last year for Snow Bunny DIY, I made these really cute gingerbread man Christmas tree ornaments using almost this exact same color of resin and this gold glitter, and the glitter ended up sinking to the bottom. So I'm hoping, just like with my cauldron mold from last week, I'm hoping that the glitter sinks to the bottom so that it's more visible when it's demolded. I mixed up about 60 milliliters of resin, and that was definitely way more than I needed. So I poured the excess into the Hogwarts letter envelope molds. So yes, that will be coming in another video because those are already set and curing as we speak. So 60 milliliters filled up all 3 silicone molds, so that's kind of good to know, especially since the pamphlet didn't give us any measurements. And I let that cure for 24 hours before demolding. If you're still waiting for your Hogwarts letter just like I am, then you would fit right in with the Coffee Bean family. You should subscribe and become a Coffee Bean too. And click that notification bell so you don't lose me to the big wide world of YouTube. I post videos every Monday at 9 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. So even if we can't meet on the Hogwarts Express, we can meet here. So even though the paint did stick to the cured resin, I'm pretty disappointed that it's not as visible as I thought it was going to be, especially the gold detailing. And I think it's because of the color that I mixed up. You can hardly see the gold detailing, but oh well, it is what it is. And then as far as the black letters, those are hard to see too. So I took my black Posca pen and I very, very, very gently colored in the letters. And the kind of method I used was, instead of coloring, I more like dabbed the color, so it was more like stamping, if you will. Then once that was dry, I sealed everything with the Sophie and Toffee UV varnish. And it was as I was sealing it that I realized there is the word to in between London and Hogwarts, which makes sense because it's going from London to Hogwarts. And I didn't notice that before. So I colored that in with my Posca marker too. It looks a little off because it was hard to get those tiny, tiny letters, but oh well. It's not a big deal. Now that the paint's dry, I am going to turn this into a wet shaker. So that means I need to make a hole for the shaker oil to go into. So I used my hand drill and I made a little hole in the bottom corner. That way the hole is hidden from view because it's at the bottom, but I can still stick my shaker oil in to fill it up later. Now the fun part is choosing all of the things to go inside the shaker. So I stuck with Hogwarts House color themes. That is a mouthful. I also picked out a bunch of diamond shapes in various sizes to represent the house points that go in the hourglass in the Great Hall. So I did red rubies for Gryffindor, blue sapphires for Ravenclaw, diamonds for Hufflepuff because we get diamonds, and green emeralds for Slytherin. So I have these really big gems and they're kind of meant to be like charms or jewelry or like to stick on clothing. So they're pretty big, but I'm going to take a risk and use them inside my shaker. And I have red for Gryffindor, blue for Ravenclaw, yellow for Hufflepuff, and green for Slytherin. And because I am a Hufflepuff, I did a yellow heart. I also have these gold flakes that are really pretty, and I also have these kind of silver balls that look like mercury. So I put all of that inside my shaker. I think it's going to be a tight fit, but I'm still really excited to see how this turns out. Next, I need to measure my shaker film, and this is a little hard to see on camera because the shaker film is clear, and I think my head gets in the frame a couple of times, so I'm sorry. But I had to take the shaker film and lay it against the silicone mold to outline the shape of where the shaker film needed to go. And normally, shakers, you can put the shaker film to the edge of the resin piece itself, but in this case, the shaker film goes into like an indent of the mold. It doesn't go completely across, it goes in an indent in the mold. So that was really tricky to kind of measure. So I made it larger than it was supposed to be and then trimmed it down to size. This took some time, so if you're making this yourself, just go slow and only cut a little bit away at a time. I also have a really easy tip for you for removing the protective film off of the shaker film. I would constantly try and use my nail to pick it off, and I could never get it off, and it took forever. So the easiest way to do it is to actually push a piece of tape on the edge and then slowly peel it off, and that takes the protective film off for you. Make sure you do both sides. Now, not all shaker film comes with this protective film, so if you use Sharpie to draw your lines, you can always use rubbing alcohol to take the Sharpie off. I need to apply UV resin to the edge of the mold to put my film in, so I carefully moved all of my shaker bits to the inside of the mold so that the UV resin wouldn't drip down onto them and get them stuck, which has happened to me before. It happens like with almost every shaker I make. Then I carefully pressed the shaker film into the spaces and cured it under my UV light. Then, to make sure it was really sealed and that my shaker liquid wouldn't leak everywhere, I domed the entire front in UV resin. Filling shakers is so satisfying to me, so please enjoy. And I sealed up the hole with some UV resin. Then to finish the whole piece, I used some Sophie and Toffee UV varnish for the edges, and I domed the back, and I cured everything under my UV light. And now my Hogwarts Express ticket is all set, and I am ready to go to Hogwarts. I've been ready to go to Hogwarts for how long? 20 years? Since the books came out? How long has that been? I'm old. You're only as old as you feel. Anyway, I finally feel like it's official and I can go to Hogwarts. Do you think they would accept this? Do you think this is a valid ticket? Just like I was a little worried about, those really big gems are kind of hard to move around the shaker. They don't move around as freely as I wanted them to. However, the little gems and gold flakes move around without any problem, so it is still really satisfying to use. And you know what? These really big gems that are hard to move, they do still move. You just have to kind of shake the shaker. You do what it's supposed to do and kind of squeeze it really gently, and they do move. So it kind of turned into like an accidental game for me. So now it's like, okay, can I get the red piece down in the corner? Can I get the moon in the other corner? So it's kind of, you know, I didn't mean for it to be a puzzle in a way, but it is really fun. It's a nice time killer. If you like this project and you want to make your own, then make sure you check my links down in the description below. I do have links for 10% off anything in the Sophie and Toffee store and $3 off your first Elves box, so make sure you check that out. And I still have so many projects left from this box that I really want to dedicate my time and energy to make sure I do them right and do them justice. So if you want to see those, then make sure you subscribe so you don't miss out. Thanks so much for watching, everyone. Love you a latte.